Hello and welcome to the Turf and Touchdowns podcast, episode number 17, that we are sure of this week, once again focusing on the horse racing front and big action over at Saratoga. We've got the Grade 2 Jim Dandy coming up, just the 6 of them to look at, but we'll be going through each and every one of them. Myself, Luke Elder, alongside, as always, my friend, Tom. I don't know.
Yes.
I need to start planning this.
Yeah, well, I prefer when you don't plan it, to be honest. That's a much better introduction.
I don't think you do.
Well, to be fair, I was braced this week. I was ready with a comeback in case you came up with something. You didn't, so I'm happy just to sit here and say, yes, my friend. And I'll tell you what, we are friends, but we are enemies in this race on this Saturday. Third week of Saratoga. We're yet to get off the mark on a Saturday. Hopefully we can do it in the Jim Dandy, but we're not with the same horse, which may surprise a few people.
Yes, albeit we're not, spoiler alert, going too left field, but the Jim Dandy is a very interesting race. We'll get to that in a moment. We have got the Haskell to look back upon. Frustrating race regarding the Haskell?
Yeah, it just didn't really work out, did it? I think we just move swiftly on from that and say, this race in the Haskell, Monmouth has never really been a track that I love. I find it very hard to predict. I think the form there is tough to really move on to other venues, especially New York and Kentucky. Maybe the Haskell came out with the best horse winning. I don't know. We'll just see in the future. I think we can gloss over last week's race.
Yeah, I will add in. I'm not convinced about Mind Frame anymore. I don't like him. He's off my Christmas card list.
I disagree. I have to say I disagree. I do think he needs blinkers. But I think he's the best horse, and I'm sticking with him going forward. Not when it comes to Breeders' Cup Classic, but genuinely, if he faces Dornock again, I'm not going to sway and be on Dornock. I will stick with Mind Frame, I think.
Yeah. Don't know.
You don't.
The blinkers aren't just like the blinkers wouldn't be that's nice. They're needed. Like they are 100% needed with Mind Frame.
Yeah.
But we'll see regarding him going forward. But I did not like that in the Haskell last week. But that's looking back. We're going to focus on looking forward. If you are a fan of this podcast, leave a comment below who you fancy in the Jim Dandy. If you think Sierra Leone can get back to winning ways, do leave a like on this video as well. And subscribe to us at Turf Touchdowns on Twitter/X and on all other socials. We are Turf and Touchdowns. But we'll dive into the Jim Dandy. We've got the pace angle to look at once again, Tom. We've only got 6 of them, but there are about 4 of them in here that are capable of leading, but they're not all going to be able to lead.
You've been reading my notes again. My first line of my notes is 4 of these want to lead despite the small field. Yeah, I think that's very much the case. And usually in these small field events, you kind of get that one proper out-and-out speedball that goes to the front. They kind of slow it up in the mid part of the race, and then it doesn't really suit the closers. It suits either the front runner or the stalker. In this race, I think it could suit the closer. And the reason for that is the 4 front runners don't really have any other way of going, I don't think. I mean, Seize the Grey recorded by far his best run when he was on the front. You had Fierceness, who generally needs the front, I would say. Batten Down last time made all in the Ohio Derby. And also you've got one of the outsiders in here, Gould's Gold, who's going to be up with the pace. You've also got Pony Express, who could also lead. Technically 5 of the 6 could go forward. 4 definitely. I think this could set up for the closer. One question for you before we delve a little bit deeper into the horse's form. How quick do you reckon they're going to go through the half here? I'm going to say 47 flat, which is relatively fast for a small field.
I was dipping under 47, and I thought they might go high 46s.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't hate that at Saratoga. I think Saratoga is always a track where I try and treat like a different entity. It's wonderful, but Saratoga form doesn't always travel elsewhere, and other form doesn't always travel into Saratoga. If you like Saratoga, you really like Saratoga and you put in massive performances. I always bring out the case of, you remember the good sprinter a few years ago, Imperial Hint, was a tiny but an absolute speedball. Won over, I think, 6.5 furlongs and broke in that run, broke the track record over, I think, 5 furlongs, 5.5, 6 and 6.5 in the same run, which is just ridiculous. Yeah. It's one of those tracks, but you can get loose on the front end, as we've seen so far this year, the Belmont being one of them. Who should we discuss? Should we do Sierra Leone first?
Yeah,
Because,
he's a morning line favourite, even money, isn't he? We've got to start with him.
well, you're Sierra Leone's smallest fan. You're
I
not
am.
a fan of Sierra Leone whatsoever. So go.
Okay. We have covered a fair few of his races, not only on these podcasts. We covered two of them so far on Turf and Touchdowns, but we've also covered a fair few together on Sky Sports Racing. I've never been with him. And it's not to say that he doesn't have the ability to win any of the races we've covered. He has more than the ability to win all of them. He just ruins it with his own wayward tendencies. The fact that he paddles with his front left leg, technical term, which means that he lugs in left in latter stages.
Whenever you talk about Sierra Leone, it is a short price that the word paddles is coming out.
100%. It's because this is his one issue, and it's the thing that everyone watches Sierra Leone and they go, "This horse has been really eye-catching there. He was the best in the race. He's got loads of ability," and most of that is correct. But because he paddles, there you go, bingo cards are at the ready. That's why he lugs in. That causes him his issues in the latter stages of every race, and that costs him victories. If he just had a normal action where he didn't paddle with his front left, I don't think he would lug in. I don't think it's a mental issue. I think it's more of a physical issue with him, and that's why I've been against him. Now, everyone knows where I stand with him. He's a horse I'm always willing to take on, especially at short prices, and he's even money shot in this race. However, and no spoiler alert, but these are the pros for him in this event. He's got lots of pace to chase. He obviously needs it. He's a deep closer. He doesn't have any real early speed, so he's going to come from out the back no matter what. And if this was a more tactical affair, then his chance would be greatly diminished. Fortunately for him, there are at least four speed horses in the race, and therefore he should get the pace to chase. Secondly, Flavien Prat retains the ride, which I actually think is a positive. Now, many people were saying that Tyler Gaffalione knew him better than Flavien, and Flavien didn't give him the best ride last time in the Belmont. I disagree. I thought Flavien gave him every chance, and the horse kind of threw it away. I think Flavien's probably a little bit better rider than Tyler, so that is a positive for me. And thirdly, and this is the most crucial factor, which I'll touch on a little bit later when it comes to the picks selection and why I'm for or against him. He's drawn inside. Can he get a rail riding trip the whole way through the race, therefore limiting the chance of him lugging to his left? I think it's possible.
Potentially. I agree with most of what you said. I think Flavien Prat is I don't think it's. Well, I think there's quite a bit between them. I think Flavien Prat is a much better rider than Tyler Gaffalione, and I like Tyler Gaffalione. I just think Flavien Prat probably is the best in North America at the moment for me. I think he's absolutely superb. I don't think he did anything wrong in the Belmont either. I think he gave him the exact right ride for the horse, and Sierra Leone just did his Sierra Leone thing, and he threw the race away. He still ran well. Speaking of paddling, what's your strongest swimming stroke?
Probably front crawl, but I'll tell you what my weakest is. I've never actually thought to myself what my strongest stroke is. Breaststroke's right up there. Don't read between the lines on that one. My worst is backstroke. I don't know how people do this. The water just goes over your face, right?
So what? So you're like a guy that like brings your hands up like that and just throws it on you?
Well, no, I'm trying to do it. I love the Olympics. Shout out to Olympics starting this week. I love the Olympics. I've watched loads of swimming. I kind of know what you're supposed to do, but I just don't understand how it happens. You put your arm behind you and the water just comes all over your face. How are you supposed to breathe?
Just don't hit water on your face.
Yeah, but how? Not possible. What about you?
Like probably front crawl, but backstroke is up there. The one problem I've got with backstroke is I'm a bit of an idiot, and
Correct.
I always I always just worry about smashing my head on the wall of the swimming pool. Like I understand.
See, I have no issue with that because
uh,
yeah, you got to look at the ceiling or outside, depending. Well, it depends where the swimming pool is. But
yeah, that's
for your point of reference,
At the ripe old age of 31, I rarely swim indoors anymore. If I'm swimming, it's normally in a sea or it's normally on holiday in a swimming pool with child. My child, not random children. But I get the inside thing, but I don't know. I'm always just worried like, going to end up in hospital here.
I will say, if you are swimming in the sea and doing backstroke, there's very limited chance that you're going to bang your head on the wall.
Yeah, correct. That is very fair, unless you swim into a pier. One other thing, swimming in the sea. fine with it, and I'm fine with all marine life. That's cool. Like I will look at whatever when you go snorkeling. When I'm swimming back to shore, I'm always just a little bit concerned because like you got your back to it a little bit, and I always have a look around. It's like, oh, what if there's like a massive shark coming?
You've watched too many shark films, I would say there. Also, I didn't anticipate you saying I'm fine with all marine life on this podcast. I'm pretty sure that's what most of the audience have come for, just to know whether you're fine with marine life or you're not really. That's probably what we should title this pod rather than Jim Dandy Preview
Marine life preview.
with
But
Luke.
look, I'm fine with all marine life, regardless of what type of fierceness they are, which is the next horse that we're going to get. Yeah,
Ah, what a link.
good stuff. Fierceness. He's I don't know. he's fierceness basically. He's had plenty of chances in his career. He's had some outrageously big highs. Breeders' Cup, Florida Derby. He's had some really bad lows in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, we text each other at the first bend saying this is over. Fierceness has got the perfect trip. Everything's gone right for him, and he just bombed in a big way.
Yeah, he did. He was so bad in the Derby, to be fair. I mean, what was he? He was 3 wide up on the lead, kind of the place he needed to be to factor in the race. If you go back through all of his other events, when he's on the front, he runs well. When he's out the back or has a slow start or races mid-div, he doesn't seem to perform. And I think in recent podcasts and previews on Sky Sports, I've said that this horse is really inconsistent. And I don't disagree with that necessarily. I can certainly see that case, but I do think in hindsight I'm a bit wrong by saying that. I think he's actually very consistent insofar as when he gets ideal circumstances, he runs well, and when he doesn't, he doesn't. It's very much a case of consistent with conditions. Now, in here, small field, drawn outside, positive. He wants to probably be 2 or 3 wide at Saratoga anyway. He wants to be up on the front. Small field allows him to get into that position without taking bumps in the early stages, like what could have happened in the Derby, what did happen in the Holy Bull. But with the other pace horses up front, he's not going to get A-plus conditions in the race. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent. He almost certainly does. I think he's going to take a lot of money, and I personally think he's going to be vying for favouritism come the off time, despite the fact Sierra Leone is even money on the morning line, and I think Fierceness is 9-5 or something similar to that. I think they're going to be near joint favourites by the off. And with that in mind, and the fact that I don't think he's going to get an easy lead, I'm going to be looking elsewhere, but I do respect him in this race. If he produces his A game, he's probably going to win. The two best performances from any horse in this event come from Fierceness, in my opinion, in the Florida Derby and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Do you want to know my theories about Fierceness?
Go on.
I'm really glad you said that. It'd have been boring if you'd have said no. It was like, no, keep it to yourself. I was like, all right, well, moving on then. I feel like he's a small field bully.
Possible.
And I know that doesn't make a ton of sense because, I mean, when he ran to 105 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, there were 9 runners in there, so 8 rivals, which is average, we'll say, over in the US for that sort of grade. It wasn't really a 9-runner race because the horses that got to the 4, including Fierceness, they were away and gone effectively. And you had horses. Who was the favourite that's missed this year? Locked. You had him that was out the back of the field. Tim Blake was never really anywhere near the pace. It was kind of like a 3-runner race on the front end as far as Fierceness is concerned. He put in a massive effort. He ran in the Holy Bull. Things didn't go right, didn't get to the front. He got a little bit boxed in, and I don't know if he panicked. I don't know if he just sulked. I've not a clue. Florida Derby, great performance. Again, 9 runners, but he turned it into a race where he was rather antisocial, didn't have others around him, and he put in a massive run. The Kentucky Derby is about as much of a social race as you're going to find, regardless of if things go perfect for you. He might have just hated it. I think he's the sort of horse who needs things to go his own way, which they should do here, regardless of how strong they go. He won't be surrounded by horses, especially being drawn out in stall 6. And I also said after the Kentucky Derby, this horse has got a massive performance in this year. There is one sparkling performance. I don't know when it's going to come. I don't know how it will happen, but there is one effort that he'll put in a speed figure of like 115 or something like that. I would be far more confident betting that it comes here at Saratoga rather than at Del Mar in the Breeders' Cup Classic, or whether it comes anywhere else in New York, or whether if he ended up at Churchill for whatever reason, it would come there. I think I think Fierceness is a weird horse. I think Saratoga is a weird track, and I think they could be the perfect marriage.
I don't disagree. I do think he's got a plausible winning chance, which will be replicated by his price. I just trust him less than I do Sierra Leone. I don't know whether he's going to get what his ideal circumstances are. I don't really know what they are. As I say, it seems like he needs everything to go right. And I feel like the majority, as you've said there, the majority will go right in this race insofar as he won't get bumped. Well, he shouldn't get bumped out of the stalls. He's drawn well, so should be able to get his position. But he's just not going to get an easy lead. And that's enough for me to look elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he won. It would be great for Mike Rapoli and Todd Pletcher, obviously, if he did win. But he's not for me at the price.
They're the main two. Anything else that you wanted to throw into the race?
I mean, we should briefly talk about the others, I guess. Gould's Gold just doesn't really have a chance on form. Pony Express stepping up from virtually a maiden. I mean, I don't really know why he's in this race. Very odd bit of placing for Pony Express. I actually tipped Pony Express first time up in a maiden on the West Coast, and he was very disappointing. So I immediately lost faith in him there. Those two have no chance on price anyway. Then you've got Seize the Grey, who I just think benefited most from really unique conditions at Pimlico for the Preakness. It was super sticky underfoot after loads of rain. The majority of horses didn't handle it. He was on the front end. He handled it. Subsequently disappointed. Maybe he was just a one-track horse at that point. Needed the conditions to produce his best. So I'm happily against him. And Batten Down, well, he's yet unproven against these horses. He's like the fuzzy in this race. He's the one that we're not clear on. He comes into it off the back of a really good run in the Ohio Derby, but is he going to get an easy time with things up front? I don't think so. So therefore, I have to play against him because it would be a huge question mark if he gets pressed up front early on.
Mm-hmm. His three best efforts have come when getting a freebie, we'll call it that,
Yep.
On the front end. He's a very good horse, don't get me wrong, but he's also taken on the horses that went off the two standout favourites for the Kentucky Derby who have had things not go right for them. And as a result, they might be a little bit underrated. But selection time. Tom Collins, who has been talking down Sierra Leone for months and months. Who are you with?
Yes, I am with Sierra Leone this week in the Jim Dandy. Now, I do want to caveat this by saying I did say he will never win a race this season after his Remsen performance where he was second behind Dornoch. I'm going to go slightly against that by saying he's going to win this, but I did think, and I think you told me this before the podcast, that I specifically said no grade 1 win, and this is a grade 2, so this technically doesn't count.
I don't remember that.
Don't lie now. So yes, I'm going to say he's going to win this race, and the reason for it is not because I love the horse. I really don't. It's not because I love the price. Again, I really don't. I wouldn't want to be putting my hard-earned on him. However, he's going to get the ideal pace scenario. Chad Brown loves Saratoga. He was born just 18 miles away, grew up in Mechanicville. He lives for winning races at Saratoga. He's going to have this horse primed, and most crucially, and as I've already touched on, I think he could get an ideal rail riding trip. And if he does, I think he'll win easily because this horse has the most natural finishing speed in the race, gets the perfect setup. And the only reason he's lost in previous starts is because he lugs left. If you ride the rail throughout and then just tip off one spot in the home straight with a good split, he won't be lugging much. And I think that could be the difference in here. I do respect Fierceness. Hopefully we get a good race where both of these horses actually turn up and produce their best efforts because that's kind of what we want to see, isn't it?
Yeah, 100% that. I've kind of got half a thought that Sierra Leone might sit closer to the pace. When I say that, I mean like not 10 lengths last. That's at 5 lengths off the back of the field, which would be a help. He'd get a nice toe into the contest. However, I'm with Fierceness. He's not a horse that I like. I honestly, I've never really been a massive fan of Fierceness. In the Kentucky Derby, I just had a horrible feeling. I think we said on the podcast that this races wouldn't suit him, regardless of if things go right. I wasn't really a massive fan of him after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I didn't really think he'd shape up into a top 3-year-old. However, in the Florida Derby, he put things together and did it well. This is the one time this year that I'm going to be with Fierceness. I just think that Saratoga is a track that is really made for him. It could be the sort of place where he just puts in a massive freak performance, which we know that he's capable of doing. As Tom said, he's responsible for the 2 highest bare speed figures in this contest. But with him, it is feast or famine. And I also think this could turn into a quite isolated race for him in that he's got 5 rivals. he's going to be stuck out a little bit wider. That's fine. I don't mind that whatsoever. And if he can get to the front, then great. I just feel there's a lot of positives for Fierceness. And I think this is going to be the one time I'm with Fierceness this year. And I think it's the one time you're going to be with Sierra Leone this year. So come on down, batten down.
Yeah, this could be a race where we see a bit of a shock, and we're kind of both proven right but wrong at the same time, which will be ironic. But yeah, we're obviously just trying to find the winner, and I think we've chosen the two most logical plays. I don't know which one will win, but as I say, like as a neutral, I probably won't have a bet in this race, but as a neutral, I just want to see those two go head and head and actually kind of clear up a little bit in terms of the 3-year-old dirt division. Which one of these is the better horse? And we don't really know, do we? We don't. Fierceness has produced the two best efforts. Sierra Leone has been the consistent horse who's considered unlucky. So I think that's the main talking point here.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting race, regardless of what happens. But Fierceness takes on Sierra Leone once set again. We will see how they go in the Jim Dandy at the weekend. Just to say, if you are waiting for the next NFL podcast, thanks. We will be getting to that. There's a few things going on behind the scenes at the moment that we're trying to get to, but the season is approaching. We will be upping things to genuinely one podcast a week at a minimum regarding NFL side of things. We'll be providing our best picks ahead of Monday night, Thursday, and also Sunday. But there's a few things in the pipeline for that. Stick with us. That is still a thing. We're not just Turf podcast. It's still Turf and Touchdowns. And if you did enjoy this podcast, leave a like down below. Comment Fierceness or Sierra Leone. Who are you with? And have you got any more selections on the weekend? We're at Turf Touchdowns on Twitter. We are at Turf and Touchdowns everywhere else. But it's an interesting podcast, Tom, but one in regards to a race that I'm very much looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the Jim Dandy. I'm also really looking forward to the undercard at Saratoga. Bit of a plug here for tuning into Sky Sports Racing on Saturday. I'll be on there covering all the races at Saratoga. Unfortunately, you're not going to be with me. Got two other presenters for my shift, but the undercard at Saratoga is really good. The Alfred G. Vanderbilt is race 6 on the card. That features the brilliant Skelly, ridiculously fast horse against Nakatomi, who we've seen for Wesley Ward, globetrot around the world, basically last time seen in the Golden Shaheen at Maidan. That'll be a great race. Race 7 is the race I'm most looking forward to. It's a maiden special weight. I'm going to put it on the podcast. The only reason I'm saying this is because I want this so I can prove it in the future. I think there'll be 5 future graded winners in that maiden stakes, race 7 at Saratoga on Saturday. I'm not going to disclose who I like in the race, but there are a handful that are really, really promising with huge pedigrees, massive price tags, and wicked works. So definitely tune in for that. Get your tracker out. And the whole undercard at Saratoga should be fantastic leading up to the Jim Dandy.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that you're not going to say anything about that race is because the morning line's out at the moment and you just don't know what the actual prices are going to be. That morning line would send bookmakers bankrupt if that was actually a thing. But
100%. What is it, 3-1 the field or something crazy like that?
3-1 Invictus and Uncaged is the also eligible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
and then it's 4. You got 4-1 on a Chad Brown horse. I think it's 4-1 on a Bill Mott, 6 on a Steve Asmussen. Yeah, there are some nice runners in there.
You've looked at this race way too much.
I've already studied Saturday's card.
Yeah, big time. Like to know the morning line prices off the top of your head. Yeah. Very good / sad. Tom, thank you very much for your company today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a good episode. Looking forward to next week.
Yeah, we'll be back next week where we will hopefully be doing an NFL preview. We've got, as I say, a few things in the pipeline regarding that, but we will definitely be back with another horse racing preview. Thank you very much for tuning into the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Until we see you in a week's time, have a very good week. Stay safe. Look after another. Goodbye.